Howdy. Thanks for joining me on this talk by the fire. I've been thinking about this video for a while, calling it Snake Oil Salesman Realm, because I think that we're born into a realm where the snake oil salesmen have taken over. They rule the minds of most of the people here. The people don't get it. They don't understand it. They've been sold snake oil their entire lives. And it's just impossible to fathom the level of deception they have lived under. You know, it's taken me a long time to really wrap my head around all the tricks being played on us in this place. So I wanted to make a video to talk about it, and it's getting kind of hot by this fire. I gotta scoot away. Oh, close this thing up. Getting a little too hot there. Oh. But I've been working my tail off on that dang frozen roof, and now it's kind of my day off in a way. I'm gonna go back in, do a half day. But I figured this would be a good time to put the video out. So we all know what a snake oil salesman is. The story around snake oil salesmen is they would show up in a town and they had tinctures and they had all of these medicines that they claimed cured all your ailments. And they would show up in the town square, hey, I got the new remedy for what ails you, and you know, people would gather around, and the snake oil salesman would show you a guy who was sick, and then he's like, well, then he took my tincture, and boom, he's jumping around, he's happy again. You know, so they always had some advertisement or some story about how what they had in their hand is what you need, and how can't live without it, right? Like something's wrong with you and you need this thing that I have, so listen to me, buy it. You know, and everybody gets excited about these stories and these newcomers into their town. And so they buy it. They're like, oh yeah, this is the latest and greatest. This is the new thing that I need to have. So then people would buy the remedy. And then a few days later, somebody would start to realize it was a big hoax. And he might be telling everybody, hey, he's just pouring water with lemon into something and telling you it's doing something it's not. But by the time everybody finds out that they were lied to, the snake oil salesman is off. He's gone. He's on to the next town, tricking the next group of people. So that's kind of just the concept of snake oil salesmen. They travel around tricking people, and by the time people realize the tricks have happened, they're gone. Right? Con men. They know what they're doing. So I see it like government is the ultimate snake oil in a way. I really like the idea that government is just superstition. And it's just like the snake oil salesman telling you, you need this remedy, you need this cure. It's all the government is just some superstitious made up thing that ends up making you sick. It's not even the cure, it's the poison. And sometimes that's what the snake oil salesman would do, is he would poison people with something. He'd come into a town, poison the water supply, and then he'd have the antidote that he'd sell them. It's not very complicated. When people are naive and they don't expect to be tricked, whew, they could be tricked their entire lives. So I want to focus in on Elon Muskrat. If you follow the guy lately, people think he's some kind of savior, which is usually what people think of a snake oil salesman. He's here to save us, from something he's convinced us we need. I think a big point to make about this talk is how all of these snake oil salesmen will tell you that there's a scarcity in energy, that there's some form of, to me, it's artificial scarcity. They create scarcity, they destroy, they create, instead of how I see it, we're living in an abundant world, just overflowing with energy. We're breathing in the energy all the time. We're living through the energies. It's everywhere. And simply put, if you go higher up in the sky, it's producing energy up there. People have done this experiment over and over again where they just take a copper wire, they take balloons and let the balloons float up into the sky, and they can read, the higher you go up with metal, copper, any metal, it's going to collect the energy that's up in the sky and bring it back down. So we live in a free energy realm, okay? It's just the people that have all the weapons and that have all the control, they put a price tag on all the free energy. They've put a meter on all the free flowing abundant energy. And now they've taken humanity to such a stupid point to where people pay them for energy. People pay for water. They're buying water bottles. Like I see people buying cases of plastic water bottles and drinking out of water bottles that they paid for. So you kind of got to start questioning, when people are buying water, what the heck kind of place you're living in, because water's like the most essential thing next to air. The snake oil salesmen, they're just so obvious because they're always preaching scarcity and how I'm the big hero, right? I have the big idea to save everybody from the scarcity that man has created. So I want to show this clip of Elon Muskrat, and he's got Leonardo DiCaprio, a paid actor, right, walking around his gigafactory asking him all these questions on how we're going to save the world. So I'll play that clip now.
I mean, the fossil fuel industry is the biggest industry in the world. They have more money and more influence than any other sector. So, I mean, the more that there can be sort of a popular uprising against that, the better. But I think the scientific fact of the matter is we are unavoidably headed towards some level of harm. So the sooner we can take action, the less harm will result.
Wow. Holy crap. That's a good robot. Whoa. What is your grand vision for all of this?
The point of the Gigafactory is to get the cost of batteries down to the point where it's affordable.
Right.
Batteries are critical to a sustainable energy future. The sun doesn't shine all the time, so got to store it in a battery.
How is this going to help developing nations that have massive populations that need to have power?
So the advantage of solar and batteries is that you can avoid building electricity plants at all. So you could be a remote village and have solar panels that charge a battery pack that then supplies power to the whole village without ever having to run thousands of miles of high voltage cable all over the place. It's like what happened with landline phones versus cellular phones. In a lot of developed countries, they just didn't do the landline phones. They just went straight to cellular. And we actually did the calculations to say, like, what would it take to transition the whole world to sustainable energy? What kind of throughput would you actually need? And you need 100 gigafactories. So
100 of these.
100 of these, yes.
That would make the United States.
No, the whole world.
The whole world.
The whole world. All energy.
That's it?
Yeah.
That sounds. That
It's manageable.
That sounds manageable.
Yeah. The gigafactory, when it's complete, it'll have the largest footprint of any building in the world. Counting multiple levels, it could be as much as 15 million square feet. So Tesla can't build 100 gigafactories. The thing that's really going to make a difference is if companies that are much bigger than Tesla do the same thing. If the big industrial companies in China and the US and Europe, the big car companies, if they also do this, then collectively we can accelerate the transition to sustainable energy. And if government sets the rules to favor sustainable energy, we can get there really quickly. But it's really fundamental. Unless there's a price put on carbon,
We're never going to be able to make the transition
Yeah.
that we need to in time, correct?
yeah. And the only way to do that is basically with a carbon tax.
So there's some things in that clip. Should be pretty obvious the direction these people are trying to steer everyone in. This idea that we need sustainable energy and that Africa, right? There was a part about Africa and how they need energy and we need to put it in a battery and give it to them, you know. Instead of having some free energy device, it needs to be Tesla Corporation stamped. You know, another way of framing all of this is this billionaire is trying to capture energy and then sell it to everybody. Okay? It's the common theme with these type of people is they love to steal things that isn't even theirs with money. And I go on and on about money. I'm going to make a video that goes deeper into money one day. I did a video, the one eye, money or one eye, gives you an idea about what money's really about. But if you think billionaires are able to buy up all the energy in the realm and then sell it back to everybody at a higher price just because they are the most corrupt and scheming and maniacal and they're the best at Ponzi schemes, they're the best at trickery, they're the best liars. I don't know, it just seems to be what's happening is people worship money, and then if somebody has a bunch of money, they just kind of, oh wow, they must be good, right? They couldn't have been like super corrupt and gave up a part of themselves for the money, you know, the fake energy here. But, I mean, to make a long story short, you have a billionaire, right? Like, I have this idea that there's no such thing as an honest billionaire. Maybe there's honest millionaires, like somebody who's worked hard their life and has created something, has built something. But these billionaires, they were born into it. And they were born into evil empires of just taking advantage of humanity. Like, they're all snake oil salesmen, all of these billionaires. Jeff Bezos, right? Like, his father was like the head of DARPA. Elon Musk's father owned an emerald mine. I mean, you understand what goes on in an emerald mine. There's slaves mining hard labor out of the mine all day. That's Elon Musk. That's not efficient energy, okay? And if you really want to just take Elon Muskrat and see what he's created around the world, look at the cobalt mines and all the children turning blue because they live in Africa and there's no food to eat unless they go to the cobalt mine and mine the cobalt for the mega corporation and the billionaires. So the craziest thing in my mind that anybody will believe a billionaire is here to save you. The billionaires are enslaving you right now. There is no future promise of them saving anybody. They've got to clamp down on the minds of the masses. They get the masses to worship the money. And then they have all the printed money, right? And they do all the corrupt stuff. And so they have tons and piles of the money. So that somehow equates to good with stupid people. But this Elon Musk rat, I mean, I guess I'm just a little ahead of people in these investigations and my detective work. I don't know. I think a lot of people don't want to see the truth of the realm that they're in. But to make a long story short, you have a billionaire who, what the heck does he care about anybody? He's a billionaire. He can go to any place, go live on the beach. Like, why would a billionaire want to save humanity? It makes no sense. They've taken advantage of all the poor people and they put them into their factories. They put them to work. They're not, just like I said, they're here to enslave you, not save you, okay? But his plan is, if we build 1,000 gigafactories, you know, we can harness the energy of the world and have it sustainable. Which I think when they say sustainable energy, they're just saying controlled energy. They don't want free-flowing energy and everybody to have it. They want to have the energy. They want to control it and then divvy it out to everyone who's addicted to it, addicted to their computers, and addicted to their lights and just all using electricity. It's like now that everybody's addicted to all this stuff, now they need to make sure nobody makes a free energy device and that they harness all of it into their batteries and sell it back to you. It's just the most ridiculous schemes these people have. Like, I imagine Elon Musk rat is a James Bond villain, a billionaire trying to harness all the energy of the world and then to control everybody and to control outcomes. And then the people are praising him like he's there to help. I mean, you talk about the ultimate snake oil salesman. Ooh, that's really hot. Another aspect of Elon Musk rat and his snake oil salesman schemes is the Neuralink. I mean, you got to look at how they have implanted chips into people's brains, and so their brains can now communicate with the technologies. The guy can sit there in his brain and scroll a mouse around with his head. And, you know, it's a guy that's paralyzed. And instead of trying to wonder why these people are paralyzed, what is going on, you know, how are people getting hurt, we're just going to skip ahead and inject the technology right into their skull. So I see it as, you know, what happened in 2020 and the rollout of the arm spear, forced inoculations, however you want to say it. You just can't say the V word because they'll like censor you and shadow ban you. But, you know, they put the poison into you and then bad stuff happens and then they want to put the chip in you to fix it. To me, it's like they have these entire systems that all feed each other. They damage you with this, and then they implant you with the chip on that. They poison you with the food, and you got to go to the hospital, take the poisonous pill, You got to take the poisonous pill, then that leads you to the next poisonous scenario they've got for you. Like doctors, mega snake oil salesmen. Mega snake oil salesmen, doctors. They're not healers. They don't heal. They doctor, like somebody who's doctoring a document. Okay, look up the word doctor. It's not about healing. But to come for full circle, if you want to get out of this mindset of people going to save you, like saviorism, or I don't know, whatever it is, like there's somebody there that's going to save me, you should start becoming self-sufficient and just say, you know what, I'm going to save myself. And I know that it seems really hard, and that there are so many things I could screw up on, and that growing my own food, oh, that's too hard. Why don't you just try it? Building a house, it's just too hard. Try it. I find that the more I put myself out and do the thing that everybody's saying they can't do, it gives me power. It makes me appreciate myself more, and I become stronger. And I would love to see everybody strong again and self-sufficient and not being tricked by the snake oil salesmen their whole lives. Just promise after empty promise. That's what I'd like to see. I know it's not happening, and everybody's got free will. It's all good. However this all shakes out, I'm fine with it. I just think I'm kind of heading in a direction that's just totally, society's going this way, I've gone the other way, and the further I go, it just becomes so obvious they're leading the lambs to the slaughter all day long. Something just popped in my head too, I gotta mention. You've all probably heard of Stanley Kubrick, you know, the director who's made a lot of Illuminati movies. But The Shining is a great one. They just came out with a documentary on The Shining called A Clockwork Shining. And it's about how the movie The Shining is actually about mind control. It's actually about MK Ultra mind control. And when Jack Nicholson is up there in the hotel and he's sitting there writing, you know, the whole, if you know the movie, he's sitting there he's supposed to be working on a book, but the whole time he's writing one sentence: all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. The whole time in The Shining, that's all he's writing. And his family thinks he's writing a book and da-da-da, but he's actually, if you watch that documentary, if you study it, the hotel is like the CIA's mind control operation, and they're just testing it on him and his family and screwing with them. And then they finally get Jack to snap and kill his family, or try to kill his family. Like, when, you know, I used to look at that like a horror movie, but if you really study it, and like you study any of Stanley Kubrick's movies, there's a deeper thing. There's always something deeper in it. And he's got Apollo stuff in there too. There's all sorts of symbols. But what I learned from that documentary, A Clockwork Shining, is the psychic driving. So as Jack is writing that every day, he's just sitting there writing, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. All work. Psychic driving is, it's driving a narrative into you. And so he's repeating it, and he's becoming the thing he's repeating. So I want to equate this psychic driving to the news cycle, and how a lot of boomers sit there every day and have to watch their nightly news. They have to. They almost get mad if you interrupt. Ugh, I'm watching my psychic driving news, because the narrative that the media has planted into them has been driven into them so hard. They must see it every night, and and when you study mind control and how it works, it's basically, these people have been broken. They've been traumatized so hard that the real them has dissociated within themselves, and they've built all these barriers because they can't deal with the trauma. I got birds banging at the window. They want their seed. My gosh. It's all snowy out. But anyway, the MK Ultra, it's not just used on assassins, you know. It's used on the everyday person. And to equate this psychic driving to the news cycle that people are onto every day, and how a narrative is driven into people. And how you could be on the right side and you get this narrative. You could be on the left side and you get that narrative. You could kind of be in the middle and you get that narrative. There are all of these stories being driven into people. It took me a while to snap out of it all and just get on my own story. And to really grab my story and go with it. And realize they're under mind control. Big time. I'll put some links to that documentary. It was really good. But I kind of, I'm going to talk about snake oil salesmen. You got to slip in a little bit of the mind control aspect, because they're using mind control. They're using repetition. They're using the everyday psychic driving into people, that there's scarcity and that something must be done, right? So I hope you enjoyed this talk. There'll be plenty more. Love you.